As you watch these images, we want to bring in a very important guest of ours. We are working hard to bring in as many voices as possible to our coverage. So we are joined now live via Skype by Virgil Roberts. He's the co-founder and the board chair of the African American Board Leadership Institute. And by the way, this institute helps strengthen nonprofit organizations as well as private organizations by helping place African Americans in places of leadership.
Right. Robert's also involved in many community organizations and has mentored many other business leaders and executives. Also a prominent attorney. Other than that, you don't do much, right? We appreciate you joining us so much. And tell us your thoughts on what is happening in the last few days. How's your heart felt?
Well, what I think has happened is we've had the conversion of a number of really important social issues. We've got worldwide pandemic. We've had tremendous economic collapse. And then in the last week, there have been a number of issues that affected Black folks, beginning with Arbery, who was shot when he was jogging, with Breonna Taylor, who was killed in bed. And I think the most telling thing for probably all Americans was to see young woman, Amy Carter, who weaponized the use of the police against a Black man who said, "Get away from me, I'm gonna call the police on you." And all he was doing was asking her to obey the law and put her dog on a leash. And then almost immediately thereafter, we had the George Floyd incident with him being killed. And I think as a lot of people are sitting home, watching TV, they began to put all these things together. The tremendous income inequalities we see with the deaths from the coronavirus, the impact of income inequality is having. 40 million people have lost their jobs and their medical insurance. And I just think that the country has said, we're not on the right track. We need to change the direction we're going in America. And all these protests have been spontaneous across America.
So it is fascinating and tragic at the same time because the African American community has been the hardest hit in all of these incidents that you point out, from COVID on through all these incidents with the police. You're in an organization that helps put African Americans in places of leadership. How do we continue to do that, but in a much faster, more efficient way so we could fix these problems?
Well, what I think is it should be done fast and efficiently and quickly if there's a change in public will. And I am optimistic that what we're seeing with such a multicultural, multi-ethnic, really multi-generational protest is, I think the possibility exists to really make rapid change. It's hard to change people's minds, and it looks like minds are being changed. And once that happens, I think it will be easy to begin to see the kind of change that we want. People will begin to look at themselves and ask the question, am I really biased in ways I hadn't thought? That's why I think, what happened in Central Park was in some respects more chilling than what we saw in Minneapolis, because we saw a woman who's an Obama supporter, a liberal who'd written checks for liberal causes, and when challenged, she immediately, almost subconsciously, took advantage of white privilege and said, "I'm going to call the police on you, a Black man, and you know what that means." And I think what she did is she revealed the sort of racism that's in the air that people know is there and often say they don't realize it's there, but we know it's there. And recognizing a problem is the first step to solving the problem.
Exactly, and I heard that it's not enough to say I'm not a racist, but you have to be an anti-racist. You have to actually speak up and not just stand by the sidelines.
That's correct. What we have is we have it's like having a mental health problem for the entire country. And any psychiatrist or psychologist will tell you, you have to admit that you have a problem before you can begin to solve the problem. And I think what we've seen over the last 10 days has caused a lot of Americans to recognize that we have problems with income inequality, we have problems with racism, and we need to do something about it. And as I've often said, the problem of racism is not one that Black people can solve, it's one that white people must solve. The reason we have our organization is to try and train folks to sit on boards with predominantly white institutions to help those institutions begin to understand what they're doing and to help them change the way in which they relate to people of color.
Beautifully stated. Virgil Roberts, thank you so much. We love your wisdom. We would love to continue to talk to you. We appreciate you joining us today. He is the co-founder and board chair of the African American Board Leadership Institute. Thank you so much. We hope to talk to you again soon.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Keep up the good work. Stay safe.
Thank you so much. You stay safe.